The first anomaly wasn't supposed to exist. Dr. Ethan Cole had told himself that 100 times since the reading started. Not because he believed it, but because believing it meant accepting something far worse. The station logs from Halley 6 Research Base were clean, as always. Too clean. Antarctica was supposed to be boring in the way only dead places could be. Constant wind, shifting ice shelves, and the quiet patience of geology moving at a pace that made human life feel temporary. But then came the tremor. Not an earthquake. Not even close. It registered across 7 seismic stations simultaneously, all within a radius of 800 kilometers. That alone was impossible. Tectonic waves didn't behave like coordinated signals. They scattered, weakened, distorted. This one didn't. It arrived like a pulse. Clean. Synchronized. Intentional. Ethan leaned closer to the monitor, eyes narrowing as the waveform stabilized. A straight spike rose across the screen, held for exactly 3.2 seconds, then dropped into silence. Equipment glitch, one of the junior techs muttered behind him. Ethan didn't answer, because the system had already corrected itself and updated the log entry. Anomaly classification, unknown signal pattern. He swallowed. Run the calibration again, he said. It already passed calibration, the tech replied. Run it again. The room filled with the soft clicking of keyboards, the hum of processors fighting against the cold. Outside, wind scraped against reinforced glass like something trying to get in. Minutes passed. Then it happened again. But this time, it answered. A second pulse rose from beneath the ice shelf. Same amplitude. Same structure, but slightly delayed, as if something deep below had listened to the first signal and decided to respond. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. That's not noise, he whispered. The senior engineer, Marta Ruiz, stepped beside him. What do you mean? He pointed at the waveform. Look at the spacing. It's deliberate. Marta frowned. Like Morse code. No, Ethan said slowly. Morse code is messy. This is too perfect. As if on cue, the system emitted a third pulse. Then a pause. Then 2 pulses. Then silence. Every sensor in the station went still. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Ethan's fingers hovered over the console. Record that sequence. It's already recorded, Marta said. But Ethan wasn't listening anymore, because the ice itself had begun to change. At first, it was subtle, just a vibration under their boots. A deep, low-frequency resonance that made the metal floor panels hum. Coffee in a nearby mug rippled despite no visible movement in the room. Then came the sound. Not from speakers. Not from outside. From below. A tone so low it didn't travel through air. It traveled through bone. Ethan felt it in his teeth, in his skull, like something enormous had shifted beneath the world inside. What is that? Someone asked. No one answered, because the system suddenly displayed a new alert. Source confirmed. Subglacial origin. The room went quiet. Ethan stayed at the screen. That's impossible. There's nothing under that ice shelf except bedrock. Marta's voice dropped. Then what is it? Before Ethan could respond, every seismic station across Antarctica spiked at once. Not random. Not scattered. Perfect synchronization. A circle of pulses forming beneath the continent like a map being drawn in real time. And at the center of that map, Halley 6. The base shuddered. A deep crack echoed somewhere far below, like a glacier shifting its weight after 1,000 years of sleep. Ethan grabbed the railing instinctively as the floor trembled again. This time stronger. More focused. Evacuation protocol, someone shouted. No, Ethan said quickly, eyes locked on the data. This isn't structural collapse. It's... He stopped, because the waveform on his screen had changed again. The pattern wasn't repeating anymore. It was evolving. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Pause. 1 long, continuous tone. Then, a response. From below, the ice beneath them didn't crack outward. It opened inward. A fracture line formed in silence, running straight across the radar map before any physical evidence appeared. Then the cameras caught it. A thin black seam appearing in the white expanse outside the station perimeter. No collapse. No explosion. Just separation. Like something was unlocking a door that had been sealed long before humanity learned what doors were. Ethan's breath slowed. Marta, he said quietly. She didn't answer, because she was staring at the same thing he was. The ice wasn't breaking. It was parting, and beneath it, something dark reflected no light. Something far too smooth to be natural rock. The final seismic reading flashed across every screen in the station. Signal confirmed as two-way communication. Ethan felt his hands go cold, because that meant one thing. Whatever was down there had been waiting to be heard, and now that it had been answered, it was no longer silent. They arrived at dawn, but in Antarctica, dawn was just a concept, not a change. The sky stayed a pale, indifferent gray as the transport aircraft circled once and then dropped lower, its engines cutting through air so cold it felt like the world itself was resisting their presence. Commander Luke Mesa watched the ice below through the reinforced window. Nothing but white. Endless, unbroken white. "That's where it is?" he asked. Dr. Ethan Cole didn't look up from his tablet. "Beneath it." Mercer exhaled slowly. Military experience told him a simple truth. Anything beneath it in Antarctica usually meant trouble, bureaucracy, or a corpse. Sometimes all three. "This better not be another geological misread," Mesa said. Ethan finally looked at him. "I wish it was." That answer lingered longer than it should have. The aircraft landed near HFY's extended perimeter, where additional temporary structures had already been assembled overnight. Floodlights cut sharp cones into the darkness, reflecting off ice that looked untouched by time. But Mercer noticed the tension immediately. Too many scientists not talking, too many soldiers not relaxing, and too many eyes fixed on the same direction. The ground team guided them forward. Every step across the ice felt heavier than the last. Half a kilometer from the main station, the terrain changed. Mercer saw it first. A faint depression in the ice sheet, perfectly circular, like something enormous had pressed upward from below and stopped just short of breaking through the surface. "What did impact here?" he asked. Ethan shook his head. Nothing impacted it. They reached the perimeter markers. Then Mercer saw the object. At first, his mind refused to classify it. It didn't fit any known geological formation, construction method, or material he had ever been briefed on. A dome. Massive. Black. Half buried in ancient ice that had formed layers around it like the world had tried to bury it, not build over it. It was smooth. Too smooth. No seams, no bolts, no fractures. Not even reflections in the usual sense. Light hit it and simply stopped being light. Mercer stepped closer despite the shouted warnings behind him. "Commander, don't approach without clearance," a soldier said. But Mercer raised a hand. He had seen bunkers, alien debris reports, experimental military tech. Nothing had ever looked like this. He reached the edge of the dome. His boots crunched against ice that suddenly felt thinner than it should have been. "This is not natural," Mercer said quietly. Ethan stood beside him. "It's not human either." Mercer glanced at him. "You keep saying that like it means something." "It will," Ethan replied. A technician nearby held a scanning device over the surface. No thermal signature. No magnetic interference. No identifiable composition. Mercer frowned. "So what is it made of?" The technician hesitated. "It's not in our material database." Silence followed that statement. Even the wind seemed quieter. Mesa stepped closer and placed a gloved hand against the surface. Cold. Not normal cold. Absolute absence of heat. Then, the dome reacted. A thin line of blue light appeared beneath his palm. Everyone froze. The line expanded slowly, tracing a geometric pattern across the surface, delicate, precise, impossibly ancient in its design. It spread outward in concentric arcs, forming a structure that looked less like writing and more like intent made visible. "What is that?" someone whispered. Ethan's face tightened. "It's responding." "To what?" Mercer demanded. Ethan didn't answer, because the answer was already unfolding. The pattern reached its full shape, a symbol that none of their systems could translate, yet every person instinctively felt they understood in the same way humans understand danger. Then the ice beneath them vibrated. Not violently, not destructively, like something waking up and realizing it was no longer alone. A deep tone echoed upward from the dome. It wasn't sound in the traditional sense. It bypassed hearing entirely and settled somewhere behind the eyes. Mesa stumbled back instinctively. "Status," he barked. "Structural integrity unchanged," a soldier replied. "Then what just happened?" Mercer snapped. Ethan took a slow step forward, eyes locked on the glowing lines. "I think it noticed us," he said. The dome emitted another pulse. This time, the pattern shifted. The symbol broke apart and reassembled into something new, something resembling structure, like a door forming from geometry itself. Mercer raised his weapon. Everyone stepped back. But Ethan didn't move. "Don't," Mercer warned him. Ethan's voice was quiet. "If it wanted us dead, we wouldn't have had time to arrive." As if responding to that statement, the dome's surface dimmed. Then, a seam appeared. Straight, clean, vertical, splitting the impossible material without resistance. The air around it grew heavier, like reality itself was being compressed. The seam widened, and Mesa finally understood the shape he was looking at. It wasn't a dome. It was a lid, a seal, a containment structure designed not to protect something, but to keep it from leaving. The opening expanded further. Darkness inside was absolute. Not darkness like night, but absence of perception. Cameras failed instantly. Senses returned nothing. Even sound refused to enter. Then a voice entered their minds. Not spoken. Not transmitted. Inserted. Access confirmed. Mercer's grip tightened on his weapon. "Identify yourself." The response came slower this time, deliberate, ancient. "We are what remained." Ethan stepped forward, despite Mercer's shouted warning. "What do you mean remained?" The darkness inside the dome shifted, and for a brief moment, something within it reflected light, not as shape, but as memory. A fractured image of burning skies, structures collapsing upward instead of downward, and something vast moving between stars like a predator choosing its next wound. The voice returned. The threat returns. The dome opened another meter. Cold air rushed out, not Antarctic cold, but something older. Something that made every instinct in Mercer's body scream that he was standing too close to something that should never have been disturbed. And deep inside the vault, something awakened. The moment the vault fully opened, the world didn't explode. It hesitated, as if reality itself was unsure whether it should continue behaving normally after what it had just witnessed. Commander Luke Mercer raised his weapon, but his finger didn't tighten on the trigger. Something in the air resisted the motion, not physically, but cognitively, like his own intent had been slowed before it could become action. "Do not engage unless fired upon," he ordered automatically. No one responded, because no one was sure what fired upon even meant anymore. Inside the opening, the darkness wasn't just absence of light, it was absence of definition. Cameras aimed into it returned nothing. Thermal sensors returned nothing. Even radio signals disappeared as if they were being politely refused entry. Dr. Ethan Cole stepped forward anyway. Mercer grabbed his arm. "Are you insane?" Ethan didn't look at him. "It's already awake." "That's not an answer. It's the only one we have." Then the vault responded. Not with sound, not with motion, but with structure. Inside the darkness, geometric lines ignited one by one, suspended in midair like a three-dimensional equation unfolding itself. Shapes rotated slowly, impossibly precise, forming a lattice of light that defied physical geometry. It looked less like machinery, and more like thought becoming visible. Mesa lowered his weapon slightly without realizing it. "What am I looking at?" one of the soldiers whispered. Ethan's voice was barely audible. "A mind." The lattice expanded outward, filling the chamber with floating constructs that rotated in synchronized patterns. Each shape mirrored another, then inverted, then reassembled into something new. It wasn't random. It was recursive intelligence, evaluating itself in real time. Then the voice arrived. Not through speakers. Not through directly into consciousness. Threat detection. Confirmed. Every person in the perimeter froze at the same time. Mesa felt it like pressure behind his eyes, like something gently pressing against the boundary of his thoughts without breaking them. He gritted his teeth. "Identify yourself." A pause. Then the answer. "We were built before your species learned Fae." Ethan stepped forward again, ignoring Mercer's restraining hand. "Built by who?" The lattice of light shifted. For a fraction of a second, the chamber inside the vault displayed something else, not physically present, but projected directly into perception. A sky filled with fractured stars, massive constructs drifting between planetary bodies, and something vast moving through them like a sickness spreading through systems. Mesa staggered slightly as the vision hit him. "What was that?" he demanded. Ethan's face was pale. "Not a memory," he whispered. "A recorded extinction event." The voice returned, quieter now. We were created to end what could not be stopped. The word "end" echoed strangely in Mercer's mind, as if it carried multiple meanings layered on top of each other. Ethan stepped closer to the threshold of the vault. "You're a weapon. We are a protocol." The word protocol caused the chamber to respond. The geometric lattice reconfigured instantly, collapsing into a new arrangement. Symbols appeared, ones that looked like language, but no known linguistic system could decode them. Yet somehow, comprehension formed anyway. Not translation. Understanding. Mesa felt it too. A realization forming without permission. Ethan spoke it first. "An automatic defense system." The vault answered. "Correct." A low vibration spread through the ice beneath them. Not seismic in the natural sense. It didn't propagate like an earthquake. It moved like a controlled pulse, as if something massive beneath Antarctica had just taken its first conscious breath in millions of years. Mercer's radio crackled. "Commander, satellite feeds are degrading. Multiple orbital systems are going offline." Another voice shouted over comms. "We're losing GPS integrity globally." Then another. "Seismic network is spiking everywhere. This isn't local." Mesa looked up instinctively, as if he could see the systems failing above him. "What's happening?" he demanded. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the vault, because the lattice inside had changed again. This time, it wasn't displaying structure. It was displaying coordinates. Millions of them, spread across a planetary map that didn't resemble Earth as humans understood it, but Earth as something else saw it. Pressure points, weak zones, entry vectors, and one region lit up brighter than all others. Space. Mesa noticed it too. "That's not geological data." Ethan swallowed hard. "No." The vault spoke again. "The second invasion is returning." The temperature dropped. Not gradually. Instantly. Mercer's breath fogged inside his helmet visor. "Second invasion. What first invasion?" The vault answered with silence. Then it showed them. The chamber filled with a new projection. Earth, not as it was now, but as it had been before recorded history. Cities that did not match any known civilization. Oceans boiling upward. Atmosphere tearing like fabric. And something descending through the sky. Not ships, not meteors, but structured mass, like intelligence given physical form. It wasn't a battle. It was consumption. Entire continents went dark in seconds. Mesa stepped back involuntarily. "That's impossible." Ethan whispered. "That's why it was buried." The projection collapsed. Silence returned. Then the vault spoke once more. "We failed once." The words carried weight beyond language, like guilt encoded into machine logic. Mesa tightened his grip on his weapon again. "So you're telling me Earth built you after that? To stop it next time?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "I don't think Earth built it." He looked at Mercer. "I think something else did." The vault's internal structure began to shift again. The lattice reassembled into a single vertical column of light, extending upward toward the ice above them, toward the surface, toward the world. And then, the ice itself responded. A deep fracture ran outward from the vault, traveling kilometers in every direction beneath the ice sheet. Not breaking it, but unlocking it, like an immense sealed system releasing pressure that had been held back for eons. Mercer's voice dropped. "What is it doing?" Ethan's answer came in a whisper. "I think it's waking up the rest of itself." The vault's final message arrived, calm and absolute. Awakening protocol, initiated. And somewhere far above them, across a planet that thought it was alone, something began to answer back. Orbit had always been the safest place to watch the world. That belief died first. It started with a technician at the European tracking station noticing a flicker in the deep space array. A tiny inconsistency in background radiation. Nothing dramatic. Just a shadow where no shadow should exist. Then it happened again. And again. Within 6 hours, 3 independent observatories confirmed the same anomaly. A massive object entering the outer solar system, moving in a trajectory that was too precise to be natural. Too controlled. Dr. Ethan Cole saw the first compiled report while still inside the Antarctic command tent. The vault beneath the ice was still active, its presence radiating through instruments like a second heartbeat under the planet. Commander Luke Mercer stood over his shoulder. "What am I looking at?" Mercer asked. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the trajectory model spinning on the screen. It's not debris, Ethan said finally. Mercer frowned. Comet? No. Asteroid. Ethan shook his head. The data refreshed. The object adjusted its course by a fraction of a degree. Perfect correction. No gravitational influence explained it. Mercer leaned closer. Then what is it? Ethan's voice lowered. Something steering itself. Silence filled the tent. Outside, Antarctica's wind pressed against the fabric like an impatient listener. A second screen lit up. Satellite feeds. Then went dark. One by one. Mercer straightened. That's not normal interference. It's not interference, Ethan said quietly. It's avoidance. Of what? Ethan looked at him. The thing under us just noticed something up there. As if responding to the statement, the ground trembled slightly. Not an earthquake. A pulse. From below, Mercer's radio erupted. Commander Mercer, we've lost 3 geostationary satellites in under 10 minutes. Another voice cut in. NASA Deep Space Relay is going offline. Repeat, we're losing communication with outer orbit assets. Then another. Something is disabling our network nodes, but not by hacking. It's like they're shutting down. Mercer grabbed the headset. By who? Static. Then a broken transmission. We don't know. Wait, there's something on long-range optical. The feed cut. Ethan's eyes never left the screen. The object in space was now fully visible. Not through telescopes alone, but through composite imaging stitched from multiple failing systems. It was enormous. Not spherical. Not angular. Structured. Like something designed rather than formed. Its surface reflected no light correctly. Instead, it bent observation itself, causing distortions in every attempt to image it clearly. Mercer's jaw tightened. That's heading straight for Earth. Ethan nodded once. Yes. Impact trajectory. Ethan hesitated. No impact. Mercer turned sharply. Then what is it doing? Ethan pointed at the vault's output feed. The Antarctic structure was now broadcasting something continuous beneath the ice. A low-frequency signal expanding outward through the crust, into oceans, atmosphere, and, somehow, beyond. The same pattern was now visible in orbiting sensor noise. It was echoing upward. Mercer's voice dropped. You're telling me that thing down there is talking to that thing up there? I think, Ethan said carefully, they're already talking. As if to confirm it, every satellite feed still active displayed a synchronized distortion pattern. Not random loss. Not failure. Coordination. Then came the vision. It didn't arrive through screens this time. It arrived through every active monitoring system simultaneously. Mercer stumbled back as the tent lights flickered. What the hell? The world outside the tent dissolved into something else. A burned sky. Cities collapsing upward instead of downward, as if gravity itself had been rewritten. Oceans evaporating into geometric spirals. Atmosphere peeling away in structured layers. And something above it all. Not invading. Harvesting. Mercer tore off his headset. Turned that off. But Ethan wasn't moving. He was watching it like he already knew what it meant. That's Earth, Ethan said quietly. Mercer shook his head. No, that's not Earth. That's... Before, Ethan interrupted. The vision shifted. A fleet, not ships, but constructs, moving between stars with unnatural precision. Entire systems going dark as they passed. Not explosions. Not war. Erasure. Like files being deleted. Mercer backed away from the console. Get that thing out of my head. The projection stopped instantly. Silence returned. Only the faint hum of equipment remained. Then the Antarctic vault transmitted again. Identity match confirmed. Ethan froze. Mercer turned slowly. What does that mean? Ethan's voice was barely audible. It recognizes it. Recognizes what? Ethan looked at him. The thing coming here. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. The vault beneath the ice was no longer dormant. It was rising. Not physically yet, but operationally. Systems activating across layers of ice, rock, and crust. Ancient mechanisms that had waited longer than recorded history were beginning to synchronize. Mercer's radio exploded with panic. Commander, we're getting unauthorized launch commands across multiple nations' defense networks. Another voice. Nuclear command systems are being accessed, but not externally. It's internal override. Mercer grabbed the console. That's impossible. No system has global access authority. Ethan whispered, unless it was designed with one. Mesa stared at him. You're telling me that thing under Antarctica can control our weapons? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Then, I think it always could. A deep tone rolled through the ground. Not loud. Final. The vault's signal intensified. And above them, in orbit, the massive object changed course again. But this time, not toward Earth. Toward the Antarctic coordinates. Toward the source. Toward the thing that had just awakened. Mesa realized it at the same time Ethan did. This isn't an invasion, Mesa said slowly. Ethan nodded. No. His voice tightened. It's a return. And far beneath the ice, something ancient finished opening its eyes. The first nuclear command override appeared in Russia, then in the United States, then China. Within minutes, every major military network on Earth began registering the same impossible anomaly, authorization sequences being issued from inside the systems themselves. No external breach, no cyber intrusion, no human command, just access. Absolute access. Commander Luke Mercer stared at the tactical display inside the Antarctic command tent as red alerts flooded every screen like a spreading infection. This isn't possible, he muttered. A technician shouted from across the room. Sir, multiple silo systems are arming without authorization. Another voice, panicked. We're locked out of our own command protocols. Mesa slammed his fist on the table, then shut it down manually. We can't, the technician replied. The override isn't software-based. It's embedded in hardware-level authorization layers. It's like it's always been there. Silence hit the room harder than any explosion. Dr. Ethan Cole stood motionless near the central monitor, eyes fixed on the data streaming from beneath Antarctica. The vault wasn't just open anymore. It was fully awake, and it was spreading its influence through something far deeper than communication systems. Mesa turned sharply toward Ethan. Tell me what's happening right now. Ethan didn't answer immediately, because he could feel it too. Not through instruments, not through screens, but through the ground itself. A low-frequency pulse rolling outward from the Antarctic vault like a heartbeat expanding across a planet-sized body. I think, Ethan said slowly, it's activating global safeguards. Safeguards? Mercer snapped. That thing is taking control of nuclear arsenals across the entire planet. Ethan finally looked at him. Yes, he said quietly, because they were never ours to begin with. The words hung in the air like a threat no one knew how to fight. Before Mesa could respond, every display in the tent flickered at once, then changed. The tactical maps were replaced. Not with data, with structure. A planetary schematic appeared, Earth rendered in a way no human mapping system had ever shown. Beneath continents, beneath oceans, beneath mantle layers, there were networks. Vast ones. Interconnected. Sleeping. Mesa stepped back instinctively. What is that? Ethan's voice dropped. I think that's the system under us. The vault beneath Antarctica transmitted again. Not through audio. Through understanding. Planetary defense grid, online. Mercer froze. Defense grid. Ethan nodded slowly, eyes still locked on the projection. It's not a weapon, he said. It's infrastructure. The image zoomed outward. The grid wasn't just beneath Antarctica. It was global. Nodes appeared beneath every continent, some deep under oceans, others beneath mountain ranges, some buried so far below crustal layers they predated human civilization entirely. Mercer's voice shook. You're telling me Earth has a built-in defense system? Ethan didn't take his eyes off the display. I think Earth is just where it's parked. The room fell silent. Then the atmosphere changed. Not metaphorically, physically. Every monitor in the tent displayed the same incoming anomaly, orbital disturbance. Mesa turned toward the ceiling instinctively, as if he could see through the ice, through the sky, into space. And then they saw it, on the main external feed. The object, now fully visible. It was no longer distant. It was arriving, massive beyond scale, yet structured beyond comprehension. It moved not like a planet or ship, but like a decision being executed across space. Its surface shifted continuously, as though reality itself struggled to render it consistently. And as it approached Earth's orbit, every satellite watching it went dark, except one. A deep space relay managed to capture a final frame before failing. The image showed something impossible. The object wasn't just approaching Earth. It was reacting to something beneath Earth. Mesa leaned closer to the screen. It's slowing. Ethan nodded once. It recognizes the signal. A deep vibration rolled through the ground beneath them. The Antarctic Vault responded. Not loudly. Not violently. With certainty. The ice itself around the station began to glow faintly with the same geometric patterns seen inside the vault chamber. Lines of blue light spread outward beneath the surface, forming a vast network that extended far beyond their visible range. Mercer stepped back. What is it doing now? Ethan's voice was quiet. It's waking everything else. A technician shouted, Commander, global seismic networks are spiking again. Another voice, we're detecting synchronized resonance patterns beneath every ocean trench. Mercer grabbed the console. Explain that. Ethan finally turned to him. I think the entire planet is structured, he said, like a machine that was turned off. Mesa stared at him. Turned off by who? Ethan didn't answer immediately, because the Antarctic Vault answered first. By US. The word echoed through every system simultaneously. Mesa felt it in his chest. Ethan whispered, not humans. The Vault continued. We were the last response. The global grid visualization expanded again. This time, it showed something beneath everything. Not Earth, but something embedded into Earth. A framework. A shell of ancient design wrapped around the planet like armor forged in a time before human history could begin. Mercer's voice was barely controlled now. So Earth is protected. Ethan nodded slowly. Or contained. A long silence followed. Then the incoming object in space changed course again. This time, directly toward Antarctica. Toward the source of activation. Toward the vault. Mercer's radio erupted with fragmented global reports. All defense systems are now syncing. We're receiving unknown command hierarchies. It's not hacking, it's recognition. Something is taking control of planetary infrastructure. Mercer shut it off. The only sound left was the low hum beneath the ice. Ethan stepped toward the window, looking out at the frozen expanse. It's not coming for Earth, he said. Mercer frowned. Then what is it coming for? Ethan's reflection in the glass looked pale. It's coming for what's waking up. A final pulse rolled through the ground, stronger than before, deeper than anything yet recorded. And beneath Antarctica, the ancient system completed its activation cycle. Not as a weapon, not as a machine, but as something far older. A guardian remembering its purpose. And above them, in orbit, the enemy finally arrived within reach.